Now, I found this interesting article saying that a female worker sues for harassment, claiming that her male boss is a sexual predator after he said that his wife had a Mulberry handbag just like hers. And I was thinking, and I was coming to the conclusion that the people who should be outraged at this the most are other women. Like, men shouldn't be outraged at this type of articles because we men, we came up with the solution. You guys don't know, but like a couple of years ago, articles like this were almost like 2 or 3 a week, where you would have a woman claiming something frivolous that obviously wasn't illegal, but what it ended up doing is it would get her boss through litigation, and they would have to pay exorbitant amount of money in order to take the matter to court. And then eventually the guy would win, but then they would have to ask, for what? Like, what was this for? What exactly did I learn from this? And a lot of men seem to have learned that in order to navigate this bizarre new cultural shift, in order to survive the workplace, you have to behave like you're the son of a Japanese man that had sex with the HR lady. In other words, you have to be extremely professional and use the most sanitized language, corporate speak that you can possibly muster when engaging with female colleagues. So men that would go at work, they would use the most corporate sanitized language, the most fake smile imaginable. Stuff like, "Hello Lucy, how was your performance quota today? Is there anything you think could be improved on?" You know, like you would feel as if you're talking to a machine and they would only be talking about professional issues. And on top of that, they started screening on their resume basically like any type of lady that came from stuff ending with studies would be discarded. And I know this because I talk with people doing hiring. So if you're like social studies, gender studies, women's studies, and like anything that ended with studies, usually automatically discarded. Then they would start stereotyping based on appearance. If you have rainbow colored hair, if you have certain jargon, like certain language that you're using. So in the end, you know, you have a couple of men that did get to court and they did get this shit. But then you also had a lot of women being affected indirectly. And it was to the point where I think like The Guardian released an article saying that Me Too is backfiring and a lot of women are being passed for tutorship. Basically, older men that had the experience and they wanted to have an apprentice program, they would avoid women. And you have like the Mike Pence situation where Mike Pence would say that he doesn't want to go out anywhere unless his wife is present. Like, he's not going to be in the company of another woman unless his wife is present. And there were a lot of people that behave like that at the workplace. I remember Ninja from Twitch. He too said that he's not going to play video games with women because he is married and he's not going to collab with anyone that's female. And of course it caused outrage and butthurt, but it's like, well, the outrage was misdirected. The outrage should have been directed to this type of culture. Because the reality is you have certain people that have spent decades building a career, and they simply cannot afford to have the career jeopardized with this type of thing. Because, like, even if you win the lawsuit, it's still a stink, right? Like, when you're accusing someone of being a sexual predator, I mean, the accusation alone is enough to destroy reputations. The accusation alone is enough to get people fired. So yeah, like this is what they got. And what's even sadder is that when you look at the generation of our parents, it was around like 70% of the time that people would find their significant other at the workplace. Like my parents, for instance, they met each other at the workplace, and many other parents did. But after the Me Too culture hit, it dropped dramatically. Like it was like 20%, probably even less of people that met each other at the workplace because they created a culture of fear and dread. The reality is that human beings, when they flirt, more often than not, it's incredibly cringe. I remember there was this 9-gag challenge where people had to go 2 years ago on their dating apps and read the messages that they gave to women. And a lot of people admitted, wow, that is so cringe. And they themselves wrote the messages. And why would so many people from different walks of life and different experiences come to the conclusion that, when they were flirting with ladies, it was cringe. And the answer is because flirting by itself, more often than not, is cringe. And what is happening is that they were associating cringe with sexual harassment. And they were basically associating the workplace as a place where you shouldn't flirt, which is kind of interesting because men and women flirt differently, right? So, like, men are the ones that have to make the verbal advancement. Women are the ones that pamper themselves up, right? Like, they wear a tighter skirt in order to show bigger cleavage. They wear makeup. They wear lipstick. And while it was encouraged for women to express themselves at the office, and it was the feminine version of flirting, whether intentional or not, men that would make a joke with a sexual connotation, or a man that would try to approach a woman and was unsuccessful, was at risk, not necessarily of getting a sexual harassment lawsuit, but they were risking encountering the HR lady. So what happened is that men started withdrawing. They started taking steps to make sure that they're never alone with women in the office. They would go out of their way to stop flirting with their employees. And then you had articles popping up on Reddit and other places with women wondering where the romance is and why can't they find their significant other. My favorite ones, and these ones were quite often, were women that would tell a man no. And the reason that they said no is because they expected the man to keep pursuing. Like, they enjoyed feeling pursued, right? It's romantical. But most men would say, oh, you're not interested? Okay. And they would move on. And they would be upset. It's like, well, where's the romance now? It's just hookup culture. It's just, you go on Tinder and you tell yes to a man and you hook up. If you say no, they ghost you. And this is why. Like, this is why there was no outrage over this. Like, ladies were the ones that should have been outraged over this type of behavior. Because, believe it or not, but outrage does change culture. Like, the reason people don't say the N-word is because there's outrage when people say it. The reason that it ended up with men isolating themselves at the workplace is because there was outrage when they did it. So, no, like, societal outrage does shape behaviors. And since there was no outrage towards this, and instead the mentality promoted is that people would rather be with the bear in the woods than with the man in the woods, right? Like, the demonization of men and stuff like that. It ended up in a place where I find it sad. Because I don't think that the purpose of men and women is to compete with each other. I think that the purpose is to complete each other. And, sometimes finding romance at the workplace was a great thing, were for my parents. And I'm not saying, that there aren't actual sexual predators at the workplace and that there shouldn't be a system to deal with them. But what I am saying is that this is ridiculous, right? So, like, stuff like this should have been condemned. And it should have caused outrage from other women. Because men don't care. Like, they found the solution. They managed to, like, okay, well, these are the patch notes. This is the new meta. This is how we're going to play. Right? Zero flirting at the workplace. 100% professionalism. Using corporate language. Refusing to talk about anything besides things that are professional in nature. So, yeah. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.